So yeah, like, as I said, like when you said about what is spiritual mastery and stuff, I mean, the thing is, like, we can define it in a box, but the thing I don't like about definitions and stuff is that because it's like the typical way of learning stuff when we were kids, we were like reciting the definitions of stuff and not really understanding what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like if we define anything, it just becomes that box, and I don't like that because also, like, when people come into my session, sometimes people ask me, okay, what do you mean by this, and I do explain to them, but
Mm-hmm.
what I want them to get is the transmission of that word, or the vibration alignment, vibration coordinate of that word, rather than just, oh, okay, so let me just write that down that this means this and da da da. Because that may help, but it defeats the purpose of transmission.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if, like, let's say we talk about spiritual mastery, and I say, okay, this is what spiritual mastery is, and then we'll be like, okay, then that is it. Like, this is the box of spiritual mastery, but it's not true. Spiritual mastery is so much more. Could be so much more than whatever I say. Like, it's like truth. Whatever I say is false.
Mm-hmm.
So the same goes for, especially in spirituality, any kind of definition about um, yeah, things defeats the, like, actually, like, it's not respectful to that whole domain of spiritual mastery, that if you just think of me like that, like, it's like that, like, you think I'm only that. So that's what I feel
So
about
I
definitions.
think for me, the whole idea of the spirit and spiritual mastery and spirituality for me is about expanding, expanding our consciousness. And what is the tendency of the default mind is to be a reduction, is exactly like you said, it takes a definition and puts it into a box and closes. And that's the default programming of our minds, is to put things into boxes, to close, to reduce, and to become smaller, minimize everything so that it can be fit into something that feels comfortable. Whereas the spirit is the complete opposite. It's expansive. It's breaking all the boxes. It's taking us out of our comfort zone. It's taking us out of our mind and feeling bigger and bigger. And that is scary also, because people are used to controlled environments. Everything is safe, everything is comfortable, is defined inside this box. If I understand it, I am safe. It cannot hurt me. But if it is something I can't understand, I can't control, I start feeling like it's dangerous. But that is just a programming. Like, from my experience, and I'm sure even from your experience, you can tell that once you let go the fear, that expansiveness is beautiful. It's just pure beauty. And it's to allow ourselves to feel the beauty instead of indulge in the fear.
Yes. Yeah, that's very well said. Because the spirit, as you said, is on an infinite journey of expansion. And
Mm-hmm.
that is the same as to say that God is learning and expanding through us and creating through us. So, and the all the limitations that we set upon ourselves are self-created also.
Mm-hmm.
And and like, the way we have been designed, or at least the programming, at least if we don't undo that, it's just about, okay, this is the program that is given to you, and it's very well planned to keep you safe, to get you a job, to get you educated, get you a husband or a wife, and then some kids, and then the retirement plan. So it's a very well designed, safe environment for people to step in. But there is, I mean, there is some, of course, there's learning all the time, but when we start to think infinitely, or expanding in so many different ways that we couldn't imagine, then there's always this aspect of, you can say, unknown or unsafety, that may feel like unsafety, but ultimately there is no unsafety. But that is when we realize the power of our spirit, the power of our consciousness. And
Mm-hmm.
for us to talk about that, as as the, you cannot call it definition, but more so as the
It's a
exploration.
I like to use the word description instead of definition, because description is open-ended and it leads you into the journey, whereas definition again is closing and boxing it, and
Right,
that's the end of it. Whereas
right.
description is an opening. It's opening a door that you can explore.
Yeah, so that's the perfect description, I would say, to start with, to explore infinity, to explore the expansion of this
Mhm.
expansion without limitation, without boxes, without any program. And then where can we begin? From that, what can we do? What can we play with? What can we create?
So I think what I have noticed while working with people, like I've worked with a lot of people by now, that people who are in the conventional life, who are still attached to all of that, for them, like spirituality and spiritual mastery is like a fantasy realm that is very far. And maybe you have to go to the jungle, or you have to go to a cave, or to the mountains, or get out of society to experience spirituality. And that is one myth I want to break, because there's a lot of spirituality to be experienced and practiced in everyday life. There are so many paths within, like you don't have to quit your corporate job, you don't have to divorce your partner, or quit your family, or all of this. Like spirituality is in everything. It's not separate from life. It's for me, the way I see it is, it is to really experience life. This is spirituality, to feel, because most people are in this autopilot, and they're not actually feeling life. They're not experiencing life. They're just playing the role on autopilot. And for me, the spiritual experience of life is that you are present and feeling in everything that you're doing, even if it is your regular corporate job, whatever that is, or you're just being a householder, or a parent, or a, even like you're in school or whatever it is. It's like you can still experience being alive. And that is spirituality for me. That is mastering spirituality, is can I have that experience in all aspects of life?
Yes, that is so true. And um, yeah, see, the one of the things we do in even in spirituality is that we create these um, boxes also. Like, this is what spirituality looks like. This is what enlightenment looks like. And when you get enlightened, or when you are spiritual, you wear this and you be like that, you behave like that, and then you don't have a life maybe, and you just sit in a cave, or maybe you become a guru, all of
Mhm,
those things. So it's like, also like, people copy each other without coming from the creatorhood of infinite possibilities.
mhm,
So, like, when we tap into that true spiritual expansion and spiritual journey, then it's so unique to each and every person, that it could be anything. Like, literally, somebody could be going to parties every day and could be so spiritual that normal people who are meditating every day wouldn't be.
mhm.
Just an extreme example, but
Yeah,
still, um, that
it's not
it doesn't,
defined.
yeah, it doesn't mean like anything what spirituality looks like.
Mhm,
um and the same also goes for any, what I feel is like, many times people get too fixated on one field of, you can say, one field of philosophy of any spiritual studies, like, for example, yoga or Buddhism, or
mhm,
Bible, or anything, like even religious. So this is also another limitation. Although it could be nice to develop the quality of devotion and discipline to master yourself into one focus, that is a good quality. But then we can take that quality and apply that without the box that we took with any kind of study of this and that. Because I have explored so, like, in my life, in my whole journey, I have explored so many different teachings and different
mhm,
teachers and books. And, like, they're all, of course, we all know that they're talking about the same things. And what I found was that, like, even though people were going into them, many people were getting making everything about that whole thing instead of, oh guys, just drop all of that and just
Mhm.
do the work, like literally. Because that's another cycle, that's another like book that you have to follow. Like you don't have to follow any, there's no
So-
rule book.
Exactly. So what the distinction I like to make is that uh instead of following a spiritual path, lead a spiritual path. That is the shift, is that lead your own spiritual path. And like I like to say for my own work is that I lead leader. I don't lead follower. And I'm not looking for followers. I'm looking for leaders who want to work and create their own path, go on their own journey. Because for me, that is an exciting person to work with, someone who wants to use their own creativity, not who wants to be told what to do, not who wants to just follow rules, because that is the opposite of spirituality. In my opinion, like what most spiritual people do is not spiritual at all. They're just following rules, they're just following instruction, and that has no spirit. So to have spirit, what does it mean to have spirit? It's your own life, your own creativity, your own inspiration. And if you're just following someone else's inspiration, there is no spirituality in that, in my way of seeing things.
That's so true, because what we're really doing there is we're going from this victimhood of this person to becoming the creator that we are.
Mhm,
And in that creator, we create our or lead, as you said, lead our life, lead our spiritual journey in the way we want.
mhm,
And in that leadership, we could also follow from our own free will, from our own choice. We could follow certain direction, certain pointers, certain teaching, or certain whatever. But it's not so that the followership that comes from leadership is so much different from followership that comes from this victim, or not even victim, like just the person
It's more
who
like, yeah, idolizing. It's idolizing and putting someone else on a pedestal and saying they know. And I have
right.
nothing. I have no creativity. I have no wisdom. I have no intelligence. It's like they know everything and I will just do what they say. Instead of saying, oh, I listen to your idea, I understand it myself, I experience it myself, and I do my own flavor of it, my own version of it.
Right. Yes. And ultimately, it's really like no teacher or no guru can learn for others. Like literally, you have to take the ownership, full responsibility or slash leadership of your own life and your journey of your spiritual path. And the people who do that, only they go so far. Like other people just keep, even if they read stuff, like they keep repeating the same mental cycle. They may have the perfect definitions, perfect terms of, oh, this is samadhi, this is that,
Mhm,
and I know this, I know that, like different stages of this and that. Like doesn't matter. Like guys, what have you
mhm,
experienced? What is your abidance? Where are you coming from? What is your um, what are your lessons? What is it about? Like this is what matters the most. Like what um, are you embodying
mhm.
also?
And yeah, I want to also emphasize that this does not mean disqualifying the importance and the role of a teacher or a master, because yes, there are things we don't know, there are things we need to learn, but what we are talking about here is the attitude that you have towards the teacher. Is you can have respect, you can have reverence, and you can also, like feel that yes, they are further ahead on the journey and I have something to learn from them. But it's the attitude of learning instead of the attitude of idolizing.
So true, so true. Because I myself am, I call myself teacher sometimes, and can be great. And teacher, the thing is about teaching is the same as learning, and like learning is same as teaching, because it's the whole dynamic.
Mhm,
So when we can come with this approach of opening, so if we just replace the word teaching or learning with opening, then like it's the field of creation, and no matter who is speaking, of course the teacher who is sitting will speak the most maybe and answer questions whatever. But like, if we think of it as, oh, this is guy the top guy and the other guys are like below that, instead of thinking of that way, we think of, okay, this guy maybe is sharing more, but it's like whole the dynamic of that whole field is opening to some learning and
Mhm.
growing, and whatever taking whatever resonate with each and everybody person, and then we take ownership of our learning. Okay, if this doesn't resonate, we don't take on that, and if that resonate, okay, in fact I make it even more so my own personal insight, not just something that I learned from others, but now I embody that, now I create it and lead it as my own journey. So yeah, exactly what you said. It's not about ideal. It's the attitude of learning and growing. This will take everybody. Like this is what it is about. Like learning and growing. This attitude, if we can come from, then like the spiritual journey will be accelerated so much. Like there's no limit, and otherwise we stay stuck. Like we keep repeating the same patterns. We keep out of our own ignorance or arrogance, because both are lethal. When
Mhm.
we are ignorant, then we just don't see that, we just want to see the truth or we don't see the truth. And when we're arrogant, we pretend to know things, or we believe really so arrogantly, so that we know so much and da da da, but we don't open ourselves. So it's the attitude of opening, being receiving, like receptive. That is the like the whole the key to spiritual growth. Like even for gurus, I would say that um, in each moment is a new creation, and everything, even if they're enlightened, like even like the teaching or whatever they're doing, it's every moment is a new opportunity for learning, for growing, you can say, or expanding is also another good word for that. So yeah, just like
I
wanted to add
feel
to that.
like also what I want to create a distinction is that there are teachers and gurus who teach in a way that is disempowering, that they want to create followers and they want to create the idea that they will save the follower. And of course, they attract the followers who want to be saved, who want that teacher. What I want to highlight here is that we all have that inside of us. Even the most rational, the most skeptical, the most independent person has a part inside of them that can become a follower, that can become someone who just gives away their power and puts someone else on a pedestal. I have seen it happening so many times, even with myself. Even though like I have for my whole life rejected the model of a guru, rejected the whole model of someone like I will follow someone. Even though I did not go into following someone, I did end up unconsciously giving my power to think that they know better and I don't know. And that means that I have to take everything that they say and, like not having my skepticism or my uh, ability to evaluate is everything that they are saying true. And, I have spoken to people who will tell me, that's just you. I will never do that. And there are some people who will never do that. And those very people who are saying that, I see them doing this in different areas without realizing it. But that's why I feel like, one thing people can take from this is to be humble, to realize that there must be that part inside of me. I am human. There must be that part inside of me. And instead of denying it, instead of being arrogant, as you said, and saying that will not happen to me, let me, just check in with myself and feel that part. Because what is that part? That part is the one of you that is afraid, the the part of you that feels like it doesn't know, the part of you that feels insecure, and we all have that part. So for me, this is like I talk about self mastery and spiritual mastery. It's not just spiritual mastery because there is the self also. And in ourselves, there are many parts that need healing, that need help. And maybe our dominant consciousness our everyday consciousness is independent, is empowered, is whatever. But there are so many unconscious parts that we don't realize. We switch into them in moments unconsciously, and we start giving away our power. It can happen even in the workplace. It's like you may be a very confident person, leader, whatever, and then suddenly with one person you switch, and that dynamic changes, and you are just like, oh, you know everything, or you are better, and you put yourself down unconsciously.
Right. Yeah, this brings me to the point, the part of giving your power away. And this is like the ultimate paradox between confidence and humility that resolves when we are both confident and humble. That's Then there is no space to give the power away, because if let's say there's only confidence and no humility, that's not true confidence, first of all. And also, when one is only humble and not confident, then it's also not true humbleness. But like when we truly step into our own power, then automatically we don't try to generate power just by being confident, but it's like we are humble at the same time, because we have all the power in the world. We don't even need power from others, so we don't give away power. And in the same way, when we are humble, then we are open to learning so much, and that gives us confidence, that because we can learn so much, and then we learn, and then we have more confidence, and there is like a cycle of this power, and there's no giving away power, there's no also taking power from others. It's actually empowering, like, for everybody. When we can step into that, it's self-empowerment as well as empowering others to empower themselves. That is the best a spiritual, you can say, teacher can do for others, is to be, first of all, be that inspiration of that empowerment. And as I said, the combo of confidence and humility, and at the same time then empower that in others. And
Oh,
also one
yeah.
also I'll just add to that, is that um, is like, I like the so we are both coaches, and I really, one thing I really like about coaching is that, yes, coaching, and sometimes we also talk, or maybe we give directions and this or that, but one of the key aspect of coaching is asking questions, which is the same thing as you finding your own insights rather than me just giving it to you just like that. And then it's not your own insight, maybe you will come to the same conclusion, but if I just give you the answer like that, you will maybe even listen, but you're like, oh, yeah, of course I know that, I've read that in a book, and fine,
Mhm.
like, I don't care. And then you'll move on to your life. But if I ask you a question and you're like, you know what, this is the answer that comes to me, and like, yeah, I get that now, I get it. So in the same way, that is what empowerment, I would say, is. And that's coaching also is one of the ways I've found that it's very helpful in that way.
Yeah, yeah, it's very powerful. Just going back to your previous point, I want to add that, this is also something that teachers can model. Like, I also teach other coaches, I teach other therapists. I have worked with people at many different levels. I have worked with even a therapist who has been a therapist for 20 years and still was like, wow, I have so much to learn. So why I am making that example is that we can model not knowing, we can model vulnerability, we can model humility, and say that for myself, I have been on this journey very deep, very intense for 9 years now. And it's not just 9 years going for a session with a therapist once a week or something. I lived this lifestyle for 9 years where it was constant work, day and night. So it's very different. It's like 9 years of this intensity. I have gone very deep, but this doesn't mean I have reached perfection. There is still so much more to learn. There is still so many things in which I have weaknesses. I have issues. I have to, heal myself. I have to build my confidence in some areas which still I don't feel like, wow, I can do that. So I feel like that is very important, is to make people realize that yes, we are teachers, but we are also students at the same time. We are like students of life for life.
Yes, so true. And yeah, then it takes away that story of the perfect person who will save the planet or who will rescue the followers, because there is no perfection. I mean, or you can say everything is perfect, which is the same thing. But like there is no the typical way of perfection that we see, that this person is like, because the moment we idealize some or make somebody this person that they're the best and there's like nothing, there's no weaknesses or there's no dark side to them, the moment we set ourselves to first of all disappointment, and then when we get disappointed we feel betrayed by them and by ourselves, like we trusted this person and now we see that. So already having that, yeah, because first of all the only person we should be first of all concerned about is ourselves. It's
Mhm.
like this is my journey and I'm here to improve myself, grow myself, and every other person is just a reflection and I can use those reflections. So first of all that, and then that's also then the my point becomes, which was talking about in the last topic, which was about not giving power to others. So
Mhm.
there's nobody to give away power. This is like my journey, and I'm here to first of all learn and then inspire or
Mhm.
teach whatever you want to do. Like you can just be inspirational just by your being, actually. That is
Mhm.
also enough. And also at the same time you're learning all the time, and that's what makes this journey so beautiful, because there is no end. Like literally there is no end.
Right. And I just want to explain, like, from a psychological or psychotherapeutic angle, what happens, why we give that power to people is that there are parts of us that are insecure and have low self-esteem. Even if one part of us looks very confident, feels very confident, has a lot of self-worth and self-esteem, there are those parts which lack self-esteem. And for some people, that may be the dominant self that feels very, unworthy, that feels like I am not good enough. And when we have that is when we have the tendency to make someone else perfect, because what is the belief inside is that perfection is possible for me. Someday I will not feel insecure. Someday I will not feel unworthy. Someday I will get rid of all of these bad and dirty feelings. And this person will teach me how to do that. This person will teach me how to be perfect. But being human means we keep growing to new levels. And at each level, there is insecurity. At each level, new level, there is a sense of not knowing what you're doing, because you have entered a new level, you have entered a whole new territory. So it is to realize that being human, insecurity is part of that. Sometimes self-esteem issues are part of that, unworthiness is part of that, and it's not about getting rid of it forever. And that is why even these gurus and teachers who have gone a long way have that dark side, have that insecurity, have that weakness, have that human side. They have not stopped being human. And that is the myth we have to break in ourselves to realize that they are just human, they have problems, and it's okay for them to have problems. I can still learn from them, and I can go to other levels, and I can be imperfect myself. Is to give yourself permission to continue being imperfect as you go on the journey. Because one of the things I have seen a lot with people who have been on this journey for a long time is that the further they go, the more they criticize themselves for not being perfect. It's like, I should not be falling into these traps anymore. I should not be having these problems anymore. I should be a millionaire by now. I should have all these perfect clients and I should not be having any problems by now. How can I be so silly to make this mistake once again? No, that is the kind of thinking that needs to break. If you have that thinking, you have you are definitely not at a high level, because at higher levels, you don't become perfect. You just stop thinking that way. You start embracing your insecurity, you start embracing your humanity and start saying, I am okay. That is a higher level than perfection in my teaching, in my way of seeing things.
Yeah. This gives me a good analogy of, like, imagine like if you were watching a movie, um each and every character will have their own weaknesses and strengths, and even the hero, everybody, and the mentor of the hero. So the hero could take so many lessons from the role model, the mentor, but it's a different character, and that character itself will have its own strengths and weaknesses. And in the same way, when we let, like, the human aspect is so beautiful, because as long as we're in this human vessel, we do have certain blueprint or disposition and biases and distortions, which we can, to a certain degree, break through or resolve and dissolve, which is great. But ultimately, as long as we are here as a human, there's gonna be that aspect of humanness which will make us susceptible to all the worldly things, which is not godly, like seemingly godly, that, oh, if you're completely like that, then you are perfect, your life is perfect, everything in your life should be perfect, your relationship, your finances, your spiritual, I don't know, like your meditation practice, or uh, however people measure success in each way, like that's the way people are designed to measure things. So exactly, and then we beat ourselves about it, that, okay, I have not manifested this enough, so my manifestation skills are bad, or my right now my focus, like, I'm not so uh, present right now, so that means I'm not spiritual enough, or whatever. It's all judgments. It's the game of society, it's the game of comparison, it's the game of me not being good enough, me not deserving enough, and me not being complete, whole, as a human, not as God only, but as a human being fulfilled and complete. And from there, then creating from inspiration, from aspiration, from desire, from vision, from whatever comes up, excitement, also enthusiasm. Um, but yeah, this is exactly, and also, like, when we're talking about these things, we also need to realize that everything we talk about, we're gonna have our own lessons of that repeating many times. Like, if,
Mhm.
like, let's say I say something, that doesn't mean that I am perfectly aligned with what I said, and I'm applying that to 100% degree in my life. I do have all the time slip ups. I do, like, in each way, like whatever I teach, it's, yeah, of course, I will also make sure what I teach, I am to a certain degree embodying that. So I'm not just saying things and not walking the talk. But at the same time, everything I say, you can say I'm a hypocrite all the time, because there are exceptions when I fail, quote unquote, fail, when I don't follow through what I say myself. So it's just like, this is the way it is. This is, if I say otherwise, I'm lying. If I say I'm 100% doing that, I am lying.
Exactly. This is perfect what you said, because it's so what I don't know, maybe should we start coming to the end of this and wrap it up, or do you want to keep going? Because I feel like this topic is we have explored enough, and the way I would like to end it
Yeah.
is giving an exercise to people who are watching this, that look at someone you think is perfect, look at someone you idolize, look at someone you think has become enlightened and has mastered this, and start seeing their humanity. And not only that, give them permission to be human. Because by doing that, you'll give yourself permission to be more human. You'll give yourself permission to be imperfect. Because the psychology of this is that if they can be imperfect, I can be imperfect. But if they can be perfect, then I must be perfect. This is the reverse. So we have to, when we allow the other person to be imperfect, we allow ourselves to be imperfect. And the secondary exercise you can do is see someone who is imperfect in your eyes and allow them to be imperfect too. Instead of judging them and criticizing them, allow them to be imperfect too. That too will give you permission to be imperfect in your own way. So one person that you idolize and one person that you think is an asshole or a bitch or whatever it is, allow them
Mm.
to be that, so that you can also give yourself permission to be that. whatever that is.
Yeah, I love this exercise. And it actually makes things practical. It makes things applicable, not just talk and not just listening and then going about our days. Like literally, I would suggest anybody listening to this, like literally take some time to think about that, to contemplate that, to really soak in the what we just shared, and that practicality would take everything that we said into that application of and the embodiment of whatever we said. So because this is what it is about, like literally we can talk for 10 hours straight and no change would be made unless we make it our own. So just make it your own. Whoever is listening, make it your own and take what you really need to take and really take it to heart then.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining and thank you for listening. We also want to inform you that we are creating a co-coaching program that's going to be launching soon, where we will be teaching together about self and spiritual mastery. So if you are interested in that program, you can sign up in the link that's in the description. You'll be put onto an email list, and when we are ready to launch, we will let you know. Thank you for joining once again.
Thank you.